Okay, here we go. Installing a drip system. This is in Clayton, California. Drip system video number 2. Kind of showing what I got products-wise, what I'm using here to add a drip emitters to this smoke tree, as we see here. Here's the black poly tubing, half-inch poly tubing, which I'm tapping into. Tapping into it using a punch tool, which is right here. See a little point on it? That's a punch tool. You punch into, if you can see me here, I'm going to punch right into it, as so, as the tip goes into it, and you pull it out. Now there's a little existing hole where I punched into where my finger's at, into this poly tubing. Now we take a connector, one of these little guys. As you can see, there's 2 barb ends to it. One goes in as I take it out, showing with my finger. Sorry about the shade in the sun here, but there's a coupling, 1/4-inch coupling, which goes into a 1/4-inch spaghetti tubing right here. As I try to do this with one hand, it can be difficult. Let me go ahead and put it together real quick. And I'll show you what it looks like after it's connected. So bear with me. I'm going to put my camera down. Sorry about that. I'll kind of talk through with what I'm doing. Okay. There it is, connected to a 1/4-inch spaghetti tubing with a 1/4-inch coupling. Now this barb end goes into where I punched the hole, which is right here. So I'll go and punch in. Here it's snapped. That means it's in place when it snaps like that. So that's connected to the poly tubing, which is your mainline water source that goes to the valves and your Y filters and pressure regulators. So now I'm going to put this spaghetti tubing up to this smoke tree, which requires a little more gallons during each irrigation scheduling. So I'm going to cut it with basically pruners, regular pruners I use for tree pruners. Go ahead and cut it off. Now that I cut it off, as you see here, is the end of it. I'll put a barbed T. Now here's a barbed T. As you see here, a barbed T. Okay. I'm going to basically tee it off. Like get this branch out of the way delicately. Okay. Here is the drip emitter that's attached to the poly tubing, to a coupling and spaghetti tubing. I'll connect and put the phone down. Bear with me again, I'll talk it through. I'm going to hook up the T. Now you see the T hooked up to the spaghetti tubing. Okay, see that there? Then I take my dripper line, which is a 1/4-inch as well, which is a built-in emitter where my finger's at. Now these emitters output 1/2 gallon per hour. It's built into the tubing itself. It makes it real easy just to loop around this tree. So I'll put one into the T right there. Put the phone down again. So I'm going to put in one end into the 1/4-inch T, barbed T here, and I'm going to wrap around the tree with this drip tubing. So I'll at least probably get, and here's the connecting on one side of it. At least I'll get probably about 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 emitters, which again is then basically 2 gallons is being delivered to the tree. So it's consistent. Every foot is getting a 1/2 inch. So what that will do, as it irrigates, the soil with capillary action will uptake the moisture because it's being output every 12 inches, so it's kind of even. And it also will help reduce osmosis effect. If I just put one giant emitter, you can get them up to 10 gallons per hour if you wanted to, but that's just too much outflow. You'll cause a lot of runoff problems. So I'm going to cut this, bear with me, with 4 emitters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, use your pruners if I can find them. wonderful. Here we are. That's why it's two over in bright colors. So you can find them. Okay, so you cut this is dripper line. Okay, and rehook up to the barbed tee again. So now you have a nice circle loop with emitters spaced at every foot all the way around the tree. Okay, here we go with there's the, again, hooked up to the poly tubing, 1/4 inch coupling, little spaghetti tubing, 1/4 inch spaghetti tubing to a barbed tee, 1/4 inch barbed tee to 4 emitters around the tree. So now it's getting evenly output of water, which is very nice. When I program the controller, the smart controller, which is a weather station, it'll know how much output based on what these emitters are putting out and how long it has to irrigate to saturate to field capacity soil profile. So it's nice even output. And then you can kind of stake it down with these 6-inch plastic stakes, as you see here, and they can be put where each emitter is around the tree line. A lot of times I'll just put the irrigation system on, let it run, and then come back and put these stakes in. It's a lot easier. It'll soften up the soil because the stakes kind of bend. And then we'll kind of clean it out and make it look real nice. So that's drip install with one tree using a dripper line. Now, I'm going to walk through and show you a completed landscape bed here that was done yesterday. Okay, so walk through. You see the 1/2 inch poly tubing that's laid on top of the soil. It's been hooked up to where the PVC, 1/2 inch PVC pipe main line comes out. I tap into it with a coupling. It's a slip coupling you push into the 1/2 inch poly tubing into. And then, of course, teed off barbed tee here. And I kind of just snake it through. And then, of course, here's a 1/4 inch tee. It's been punched in. And I use the dripper line as well. Snake through this buckwheat here. That way, again, every 12 inches is getting 1/2 inch gallons per hour. Same thing as here. Here's it in operation. Emitters don't put that much water out, as you can tell here. See? Nice and slow. That way it reduces runoff. It can basically soak into the soil profile very slowly. You have to irrigate probably an hour or more per watering cycle to get into the soil profile because that's low. So that's that. Another example, here's another flax that has a circular dripper line around the base. So again, it gets the whole soil and the root ball wet. So that's that line here. Again, they all come into the valves, which is the valve location here, which is all hooked up to the main water source, and then, of course, operate by solenoids on top where my finger's at, the control box with the sprinkler wire, which is connected to. Sprinkler wires here will go into the box and operate these solenoids, opening up the valve, and the water goes out into these, again, filters, Y filters, and pressure regulators, drops the pressure to 20 psi, cleans out any deposits or sediments in the water so it doesn't clog the emitters. Then it goes into the poly tubing, which I showed over there with a 1/2 inch connector. So that's that line using a dripper line. The other one I put in just over here, as I walk over here. These are all drought tolerant plants. They don't require much irrigation as it is. And we'll program the schedule based on that as well. When, in between watering cycles, when to irrigate again to replace what soil moisture is lost. And the weather station smart controller, which is a Toro IntelliSense, will understand that. Now here's the Juga, same thing, hooked in. This has just one emitter to it because the plant's small. You can spread. It's 1/2 inch, 1.5 gallons per hour emitter, hooked up spaghetti tubing into the coupling to the main line here. Same thing. I look at what plant, how much is required. The lambs here, I use the dripper line tube. The other way to look at it here is an example of not using dripper lines, but using 2 emitters at once. You tee it off. There's one emitter on that end. You can see it. Another emitter on that end, so it tees off. That, again, same kind of effect as the dripper line, just depending on installation, what's easier to install. So, and then it, of course, comes out here as well. Here's the main line source from the valves. I teed off as a riser on a 1/2 inch riser. cut it, glued it, and put these slip cap couplings so the poly tubing can be pushed into. So that's that.